Welcome, gents. Have you ever wondered why some men always feel slightly disconnected no matter where they are, as if the environment was built for everyone else but not for them? This quiet tension is the life of a Sigma male. He often finds himself sitting in spaces that do not reflect his inner world. While others flow effortlessly with group rhythms, he feels like his mind is tuned to a different frequency. What seems like a disadvantage is actually one of his greatest strengths. Feeling out of place forces a Sigma male to sharpen his perception. He notices details others ignore. He studies behavior, motives, and patterns without being consumed by them. This separation allows him to understand people at a deeper level, and that awareness gives him a form of power many never develop. Instead of bending himself to fit the room, he uses the discomfort as a reminder that his path was never meant to be dictated by the crowd. He learns to carry himself with independence, shaping his own standards rather than inheriting them. That distance is where his originality comes alive. So if you ever feel like you do not belong, do not rush to fix it. Sometimes not blending in is the very thing that proves you are different for a reason. What feels like isolation may be the foundation of your strength. The Sigma male's greatest gift is that he can stand apart and still stand strong. That is what makes him unstoppable. Let's get started, gents. Number 1. He is both inside the room and outside it at the same time. On the surface, he looks like everyone else, sitting quietly, maybe sipping a drink, nodding at the right moments. But his mind is doing something completely different. While people are talking, laughing, or trying to impress each other, he is already 3 steps ahead, piecing things together like a detective. It is almost like he is watching a movie that everyone else is acting in, while he is sitting in the audience with popcorn. This strange balance gives him an unusual strength. He participates enough so nobody can accuse him of being absent, yet he never gets pulled so deep into the noise that he forgets himself. For example, in a meeting at work, while others get caught up in arguments over whose idea sounds fancier, he is quietly calculating which plan will actually work in the real world. People might think he is just quiet, but when he finally speaks, his words carry weight because they come from observation, not from the need to win attention. This detached awareness also protects him. Picture a group of friends planning a night out. Everyone is excited, throwing out wild ideas, but he is the one noticing who is serious and who is just talking big. He can see who is likely to disappear when it is time to pay the bill. It is a small example, but it shows how his ability to be half in and half out keeps him from being taken for granted. There is also humor in this way of living. While others are desperately trying to prove they belong, he is quietly thinking, if only they knew how obvious all this looks. His detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. And clarity is priceless in a world where many lose themselves in the noise. That is why being both inside and outside at once is not just his habit, it is his secret advantage. Number 2, feeling out of place teaches him adaptability in a way most people will never experience. When you never feel fully at home in one environment, you quickly learn how to read the room and adjust without losing yourself. It is like being dropped into a party where everyone is speaking a different language. At first it feels strange, even uncomfortable, but instead of panicking, he starts listening closely, picking up on body language, tone, and rhythm. Before long, he is moving through the conversation with ease, even if he never speaks the same words. This adaptability becomes his quiet superpower. In the workplace, he can sit through a heated debate where egos are clashing and still walk away with everyone's respect. Why? Because he knows how to adapt without bending. He takes in the noise, filters out what matters, and adjusts his responses without changing his principles. It is like water poured into any container. The shape changes, but the essence remains the same. Think about everyday life. Maybe his friends drag him to a fancy restaurant he never chose. While everyone else is worried about which fork to use, he is calm, making a joke about how bread baskets are the real appetizer everyone came for. That ability to laugh while adapting makes people gravitate toward him, even when he feels like an outsider. Humor is one of the tools that keeps him grounded. He can adapt to different social groups without pretending to be someone else. If he's with athletes, he might joke about how running to catch the bus is his version of cardio. If he's with intellectuals, he can laugh at how his research usually ends up on YouTube at 2 a.m. These little touches of humor let him move freely while staying true to himself. In the end, feeling out of place never breaks him. It makes him flexible, sharper, and far more resilient than those who always feel comfortable. That adaptability is not about blending in. It is about carrying his core into any space and reminding himself that he does not need to belong everywhere to stand strong anywhere. Number 3. The distance he feels is not a weakness. It is the very thing that sharpens his vision. While others are busy trying to impress, compete, or outshine one another, he is standing back, quietly observing. This distance gives him the advantage of seeing patterns that everyone else misses. People assume their games are invisible, but he catches the small cracks in their stories. The nervous smile, the forced laugh, the way someone's eyes flicker when they're hiding something. To him, it is almost like watching a stage play where the actors forget that the audience can see the strings being pulled. Take a simple example. Imagine he is at work and 2 colleagues are suddenly being overly nice to the boss. Everyone else might think it is just kindness, but he notices the timing. The sudden politeness arrives exactly a week before promotions are announced. He does not need to expose them or even care too much. He just files it away and knows exactly how to place those people in his mind. This distance also keeps him from being tricked easily. At a party, when someone is telling a story that sounds just a little too perfect, he catches the exaggerated hand gestures and the rehearsed tone. Instead of calling it out, he might smile and ask one sharp question that makes the storyteller stumble. That subtle moment is enough to confirm his suspicions without him needing to say much more. Humor often helps him deal with what he sees. When friends argue about who pays for dinner, he laughs and says, "Let's see who suddenly remembers they forgot their wallet." It is a joke, but it exposes the quiet game unfolding at the table. The beauty of this distance is that it gives him clarity without bitterness. He is not obsessed with exposing people. He simply sees more than they think he does, and that knowledge keeps him steps ahead. In a world where many are fooled by appearances, his detachment protects him, making him both the audience and the critic in a play that most people take far too seriously. Number 4. He has a rare ability that most people would see as a curse. He can feel unseen without it ever making him feel small. While others panic when they think no one is noticing them, he is calm, almost amused, because invisibility is his chosen armor. It is not about hiding out of fear. It is about moving through the world without unnecessary attention, quietly observing and understanding what others cannot. Imagine being at a busy cafe. Everyone is trying to catch someone's eye, make themselves heard over the chatter, or subtly show off. He sits at a corner table, maybe scrolling on his phone or scribbling a note, and yet he notices everything. The way a barista handles pressure, the subtle tension between 2 people in the next booth, even the small gestures people use to pretend they belong. To the world, he seems like a ghost, but in reality, he is absorbing more than anyone else in the room. This invisibility allows him to move freely. He can slip past drama and unnecessary conflict because no one is actively trying to pull him in. At work, it means he can watch the politics unfold without becoming a target. In social circles, he can understand alliances, hidden motives, and subtle rivalries before anyone realizes what is happening. There is a quiet humor in this way of being. People may whisper about someone being shy or distant, and he might smirk to himself knowing they are talking about him while he is 2 steps ahead. He enjoys the irony without letting it touch his calm center. Invisibility is not weakness, it is strength. It lets him choose his battles, see clearly, and act with precision. It allows him to move like a shadow through life, unnoticed but always present in the right way at the right moment. What others crave in recognition, he carries quietly within himself, knowing that true power is often found when no one is looking. Number 5, being out of place trains him in a way that most people will never understand. It teaches him how to lead without the applause, how to influence without needing a spotlight. While others are scrambling for recognition, he quietly observes, thinks, and acts. He knows that true influence does not need fanfare. It works silently, like the roots of a tree holding everything together beneath the surface. Picture a small office project. Everyone is arguing over who should take credit, who should speak first in the meeting, and who looks the most impressive. He, on the other hand, has already noticed the weak points in the plan, the hidden strengths of each team member, and the perfect timing for each move. When he speaks, it is not to dominate, but to guide, and the result is undeniable. People may not notice his effort right away, but the outcome will show that he was the one pulling the strings all along. Being out of place also gives him patience. He does not need to rush into the spotlight to feel worthy. At social events, while people compete to be seen, he can quietly steer conversations, make suggestions, or drop a single comment that shifts the mood entirely. It is subtle, almost invisible, but incredibly effective. He becomes the person everyone relies on without realizing it. Humor often softens the edges of his influence. At a friend's gathering, he might make a small joke that deflates tension, all while nudging the group toward better decisions. No one sees it coming, but the results speak for themselves. This ability to lead from the shadows is powerful because it is earned, not demanded. It shows that being different, being slightly out of step with everyone else, is not a disadvantage. It is a secret advantage. While the crowd chases recognition, he builds quiet authority that lasts, shaping outcomes without needing to be noticed. Number 6. Feeling like an outsider is not a weakness for him. It is the forge where his originality is made. While others look around for cues on how to act, what to say, or how to dress, he learns through observation and reflection. He does not borrow his identity from the group. Instead, he builds it quietly in solitude, testing ideas, habits, and perspectives on his own terms. This separation from the crowd allows him to create something authentic, something that is entirely his. Imagine someone scrolling through social media, constantly comparing themselves to everyone else's highlight reel. He might glance at it, but he does not absorb it. He knows that true self comes from experience, experimentation, and thought, not from imitating what others are doing. In daily life, it could look like choosing an unusual career path, pursuing a hobby nobody else understands, or even having tastes in music, fashion, or philosophy that stand apart from what is popular. These choices are deliberate, not rebellious for the sake of rebellion. They reflect his inner logic and curiosity. Being an outsider also gives him perspective. At work, while teams conform to standard methods, he might quietly test new approaches, observe what works, and refine them in ways no one else thought of. At social gatherings, he notices subtleties that others miss, noticing patterns in conversation and behavior because he is not fully immersed in the group mentality. There is even humor in his originality. When friends joke about trends or follow the latest craze, he can smile and gently tease, knowing that the satisfaction of creating his own path is far richer than temporary approval. Feeling like an outsider strengthens him because it forces independence of thought. It teaches him to trust his judgment, to explore without fear, and to build an identity that is resilient, adaptive, and completely his own. While others chase conformity, he becomes irreplaceable, creative, and undeniably authentic. His solitude is not emptiness. It is the workshop where a one-of-a-kind mind is forged. Number 7. The unease of not belonging is like a fire inside him. While most people feel comfortable settling into routines and following the crowd, he feels a quiet tension that refuses to be ignored. That tension becomes a restless hunger, a drive to achieve, to excel, and to master skills that will make him stand out. Not for attention, but because excellence itself becomes his reward. Imagine a guy who is always slightly out of sync at social events. Everyone else is chatting about weekend plans, gossiping, or scrolling on their phones. He feels the discomfort of being different, and instead of trying to erase it, he channels it. He picks up a skill, a language, a craft, an instrument, or a sport, and dives into it with focus. The people around him might be joking about binge-watching shows, while he is quietly refining a talent that others will one day admire, even if he never boasts about it. This hunger born from discomfort is relentless. It pushes him to go further than most would dare because he is not competing for approval. He is competing with himself, trying to close the gap between what he knows now and what he is capable of becoming. In everyday life, it could look like staying late at work to perfect a project while everyone else leaves, or spending mornings learning a skill that seems niche but eventually becomes a rare advantage. Humor often softens the edges of his hunger. Friends may tease him about being too intense or obsessed, and he can laugh along, knowing that their temporary amusement does not matter. He is playing a different game, one that only he sees fully, and that difference becomes his edge. The unease of not belonging becomes a gift because it refuses to let him settle. It turns discomfort into motivation, curiosity into skill, and difference into power. While others chase comfort, he turns restlessness into mastery. That hunger is what separates him quietly and unmistakably from the crowd. Number 8. His greatest advantage lies in the very thing most people would see as a flaw. The isolation he feels is not a burden, it is his armor. While others fear standing alone or being misunderstood, he learns to embrace it. That sense of being separate gives him a calm that others mistake for detachment, a resilience that cannot be shaken, and a freedom that makes him unpredictable in ways people cannot anticipate. Think about a typical office scenario. While colleagues panic over office politics, gossip, or who is getting promoted, he quietly keeps his focus on his work, his skills, and his own goals. People may try to manipulate situations, but he cannot be cornered. His choices are not dictated by the crowd, and that independence makes him impossible to control. It is like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. He is always present, yet always untouchable in his own way. Even socially, his unpredictability shows itself. Friends might plan a weekend and assume he will follow along, but he does what aligns with his own priorities. He might show up unexpectedly, contribute in ways no one expected, or step back entirely and let the situation unfold. That unpredictability keeps others on their toes, and it quietly commands respect because he cannot be easily anticipated or influenced. There is even humor in this power. People often try to label or predict him, and he can smile knowing they are guessing while he is already living life on his own terms. That sense of quiet amusement reinforces his strength because he never needs approval, and no one else's agenda can move him. Isolation, which might seem like a weakness to some, is in fact his superpower. It makes him unshakable because he relies on nothing external for validation. It makes him unpredictable because he answers to his own logic and timing. And it makes him impossible to fully control because he is always guided by principles that no one else can dictate. What isolates him is exactly what makes him unstoppable. Number 9. He carries his own sense of timing, and it sets him apart in ways most people never notice. While others rush to react, interrupt, or try to keep up with the flow, he moves according to his own internal rhythm. Conversations and group dynamics often feel either a step too slow or too fast for him, making him seem disconnected, almost like he's on a different wavelength. But in reality, he is ahead, quietly observing and calculating before anyone else even realizes what is happening. Think about a casual dinner with friends. While everyone is caught up in small talk or arguing about what movie to watch, he notices patterns in the conversation. Who dominates the discussion, who avoids certain topics, who exaggerates for effect. He does not jump in immediately, not because he is shy, but because timing matters. When he does speak, it lands perfectly. His comment resonates, shifts the mood, or makes people stop and rethink, even if they do not realize why. This sense of timing extends beyond words. It shows in his actions, decisions, and movements. At work, he might wait a few extra moments before responding to an email or offering an idea in a meeting. By doing so, he has already observed reactions, weighed options, and positioned himself strategically. Others might think he is slow, hesitant, or disconnected, but the truth is he is simply moving at his own pace, one that keeps him steps ahead. There is even humor in how his timing clashes with the world. Friends might joke that he is always late or thinking too much, and he can smile, knowing that his sense of rhythm is invisible to them, but invaluable to him. His timing is his secret advantage. Being slightly out of sync is not a weakness. It is a tool that lets him act with precision, see the bigger picture, and influence situations effortlessly. While others rush and stumble, he moves deliberately, and that quiet mastery keeps him ahead in ways that almost no one else can match. Number 10, feeling out of place fuels his independence in ways most people never experience. While others are busy following traditions, copying habits, or trying to fit into pre-set social scripts, he notices the cracks and gaps. Instead of adjusting to what everyone else expects, he uses that discomfort as a signal to carve his own path, one where he makes the rules and decides the pace. Imagine a friend group planning a weekend trip. Everyone argues over hotels, restaurants, and schedules, trying to appease the majority. He notices the chaos, but doesn't feel pressured to conform. Instead, he quietly organizes his own version of the plan, thinking about what truly matters to him and what will yield the best experience. In the end, his choices often surprise others, but they work perfectly because they are intentional rather than borrowed from the crowd. This independence also shows in daily life. At work, while colleagues mimic popular strategies or chase approval from superiors, he identifies smarter, more efficient ways to achieve results. He does not need anyone to validate his approach. His sense of being slightly out of place gives him the courage to experiment, fail, and refine his methods until they become his own signature style. There is even humor in the way he exercises his independence. Friends might tease him for doing things differently, like taking the scenic route to avoid traffic or choosing the odd snack at lunch. And he can laugh along, fully aware that his choices are intentional and often better than following the crowd. Feeling out of place is not a limitation for him. It is the engine that drives autonomy, creativity, and self-reliance. It pushes him to step off the predictable path, trust his instincts, and build a life that is genuinely his. While others struggle to stand out by copying what works for everyone else, he thrives by creating rules that suit him, turning discomfort into a roadmap for freedom and control. Number 11. When others are busy trying to impress, compete, or get noticed, he does something entirely different. He quietly tests the energy around him, observing without needing to speak up or insert himself. While people are caught up in appearances and small gestures meant to signal status or influence, he can instantly recognize who is genuine and who is pretending. This skill does not come from effort. It comes from being comfortable at a distance, letting the crowd reveal itself while he remains calm and alert. Picture a group of friends at a dinner. Everyone is laughing a little too loudly, complimenting each other in ways that feel rehearsed, or trying to subtly one-up the person across the table. He notices the inconsistencies, the overdone gestures, the forced smiles, the way someone's story changes slightly each time they tell it. He does not confront anyone or call it out. Instead, he files it away in his mind, quietly remembering who is authentic and who is putting on a mask. This ability to observe without engaging fully gives him freedom. At work, he can identify colleagues who are trustworthy, those who are self-serving, and those who talk a big game, but deliver little. In social circles, it helps him find friends worth keeping and avoid people who bring unnecessary drama. There is even humor in this detachment. While others are scrambling for approval, he might smirk quietly to himself, thinking, "Oh, the theatrics never end." That small awareness allows him to move through interactions lightly, without getting pulled into petty competition, gossip, or stress. What others see as passivity is actually strategic. He is not absent. He is present in the way that matters most. By quietly testing the energy and filtering out pretenders, he gains clarity, focus, and influence, all while staying true to himself. In a world where so many are desperate for validation, his calm observation is one of his greatest advantages. Number 12. The discomfort he feels among crowds is not a flaw, it is a tool. While others feel safe blending in and going along with the flow, he experiences a quiet tension that sets him apart. At first, it can feel awkward or exhausting, but he has learned to use it. That unease becomes the spark for clarity, because once he is alone, he can reflect on what he observed without distraction or pressure. Imagine being at a busy party. People are laughing, talking over each other and trying to impress, but he feels slightly out of sync. Instead of forcing himself to join the chaos, he absorbs it. He notices how people interact, who is sincere and who is performing. He remembers small gestures, tone shifts, and subtle patterns that others completely miss. Later, when he steps away from the crowd, he sifts through everything he has seen. Solitude sharpens his reflections. He can analyze situations, understand motivations, and draw insights that most people never even notice. This process gives him a quiet advantage in everyday life. At work, he can evaluate meetings, team dynamics, and decisions with a perspective that comes from observation rather than reaction. In friendships, he understands who is reliable, who is manipulative, and who adds real value to his life. His moments of solitude turn discomfort into insight, giving him a clarity that cannot be rushed or forced. Humor often helps him navigate this. While friends may complain about social exhaustion or awkward encounters, he might joke about how he collects mini-dramas like trading cards, knowing that each observation will be useful later. That light-hearted approach keeps him grounded while sharpening his awareness. The discomfort he feels in crowds is not something to escape from. It is a doorway to understanding, perspective, and wisdom. Solitude transforms the unease into clarity, and that clarity is one of the quiet powers that makes him different, strong, and remarkably effective in ways others cannot see. Number 13. His difference in the room is not a weakness, it is his shield. While most people rush to match the mood, the jokes, and the opinions of those around them, he remains quietly distinct. He can blend when necessary, nodding or contributing just enough to move along with the group, but he is never consumed by the crowd's mindset. That separation allows him to navigate social and professional spaces without losing himself. Imagine a team meeting where everyone is agreeing loudly with the boss's ideas, even when they have doubts. He might nod along like everyone else, but inside he is analyzing, questioning, and considering better options. Because he does not get pulled entirely into the group's energy, he can respond thoughtfully, suggest alternatives at the right moment, and influence the outcome without drama. To others, it may seem like he is quiet or detached, but in reality, he is fully aware and fully in control. This shield also gives him flexibility in daily life. At social events, he can participate in conversations, laugh at jokes, and even charm when needed, but he does not adopt the group's priorities or anxieties. While some are swept up by peer pressure or emotional swings, he remains grounded, moving through interactions with precision and awareness. Humor plays a subtle role here too. Friends might tease him for being too different or hard to read, and he can laugh along, knowing that his detachment is his advantage. While others scramble to impress or fit in, he quietly observes, decides, and acts on his own terms. His difference is both armor and freedom. It allows him to engage without losing himself, influence without forcing attention, and navigate the world without being shaped by it. In a life where most people are absorbed by groupthink, his ability to stand apart while blending when necessary makes him unshakable, effective, and quietly formidable. In final words, have you ever felt like no matter where you are, you do not quite belong? That feeling, as uncomfortable as it may seem, can actually be your greatest strength. For Sigma males, that sense of being slightly out of step with the world is not a flaw. It is a secret advantage. It teaches clarity, sharpens perception, and builds a quiet confidence that others spend a lifetime chasing. Feeling out of place pushes you to observe, reflect, and understand the world in ways others cannot. It fuels independence, creativity, and adaptability, allowing you to navigate life on your own terms. While most people are distracted by approval, recognition, or the need to fit in, the Sigma male quietly studies the patterns, spots hidden motives, and moves with purpose. That distance is not isolation, it is perspective. It lets him act with precision, influence without forcing attention, and make decisions that align with his own values rather than following the crowd. This journey of feeling different also builds resilience. The very discomfort that others fear becomes the engine for growth. It pushes him to master skills, refine judgment, and create an identity that is authentic, strong, and unshakable. It transforms solitude into insight, quiet observation into power, and independence into freedom. So if you ever feel like you do not fully belong, take heart. That feeling is not a weakness. It is a sign that you have the potential to see what others miss, to act with intention, and to shape a life that is uniquely yours. Embrace the gap, trust your instincts, and use your perspective as your guide. The very thing that sets you apart is the same thing that can make you unstoppable. In a world where most people are trying to fit in, remember that standing apart is your greatest advantage. Lean into it, nurture it, and let it drive you forward. Your difference is your power. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.